welcome to a bonus episode of Sports and Songs podcast. My name is Dan. Joining us today is Jason, a special guest. Welcome, Jason.
Hi, Dan. Thanks for having me.
This show is going to be a mid-season Vikings report. We were lucky enough to have Jason on earlier in the season to do a preseason, kind of break down the game-by-game schedule for the Minnesota Vikings and how they would end up. You know, we heard the pundits, Jason, say the over-under is going to be probably 5.5 wins for the whole season. Some people said maybe 6 or 7 if they're lucky. It's not going to be a good year. And check this out. After last night, the Vikings are 5-1, loss against the Lions. What's your thoughts when this team rattled off 5 straight wins going into the bye week?
You know, when you and I first talked a couple months ago, I think we both had them at like 3-3 coming into this game. So I'm ecstatic where they're at. I mean, you know, Darnold is proving that, you know, with good coaching, he never had any issues on his scouting with his arm strength or you know, ability to move around in the pocket. It's just, you know, was it the Jets? I mean, he played for the Jets and Panthers, so the 2 worst organizations in the NFL. So, I mean, is it coaching or was it him? And it almost seems like, you know, it was the coaching, right? I mean, we'll see. We're only 6 games in, but man, he looks good. So I'm ecstatic. I had a couple people yesterday tell me how bad the Vikings played yesterday, and I'm like, guys, you're looking at probably the second best team in the NFL in the Lions, right behind the Chiefs. We took them to the limit. Yes. And, you know, KOC was talking about, you know, they were going to try a 68-yard field goal yesterday at the end if they hadn't had that penalty. That rookie kicker, for everything that Kwesi has been ripped on, man, that kicker is probably the best kicker in the NFL. So props to him. But, man, wouldn't that have been great to win that game with an NFL record-breaking?
That would have been unbelievable.
Yeah.
But the Vikings jumped out to that lead right away in the first quarter. Lions slowly picked back. You know, Jamar Gibbs, 2 rushing touchdowns. St. Brown, the receiving touchdown. And next thing you know, it's 21-10. And then they end up losing by 2 points against a very good and a very healthy Lions team.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They don't have many injuries.
Right. You know, they're well coached too. I mean, Dan Campbell got a lot of heat. I don't remember when I don't know if you remember when he first got hired, they ripped him to shreds on his initial news conference, and he was talking about biting kneecaps and stuff. And that guy can coach. The players love him, and you know, that was a good team. One thing that I thought was a struggle for us was, you know, Brian Flores has been called a mad scientist genius, right, for all the defensive stuff. But man, last 2-3 games in a row, when, you know, we had that lead in London, we almost blew that game. And you know, we had the lead yesterday at the end, and guess what they did, Dan? They went into you know, deep coverage, right? Not to give up the big play, and the Lions just drove right down the field, right? And that's been a trademark of the Vikings all the way back to, my God, Brian Billick, you know, and you know, all those times where they call it the prevent defense, but it really prevents you from winning, right? So that was frustrating to watch.
Yeah, I do. You know, I hear that again, and that's true as far as the giving up the lead. Now we had the let the Packers back into it, let the Jets back into it, let the Lions back into it. Those things don't hurt you when you have a big enough lead. Those are long forgotten. You end up getting a win; it's no big deal. But these close games, you end up losing. It could be something, but we're worried about that down the road, if it's a concern or not. They're sitting at 5-1. They've already had the bye week. Mm-hmm. They've rattled off all these noon games, and now they had that game of the Jets in London. Now we get a little Thursday night action against the Rams. So what do you think on the short week here, coming off the loss, traveling to LA?
Well, I don't think we're too beat up. Did you see any injuries? You read any injury? I think we came onto that pretty healthy. We're going to have T.J. Hawkinson for this Thursday night game. I read. I think Blake Cashman. I think we really missed Blake Cashman yesterday on those intermediate passes that they killed us on those. I'm excited about that, man. The Rams are about ready to go into sell mode. From what I read, I read a lot of stuff with Mike Florio, and they're one more loss away from just punting out of the season. Maybe trading away their quarterback, trading away Cooper Kupp. We got to take a dagger to these guys. We got to come out strong and just dagger them because I think they're a well coached team too. But I think you get in the third or fourth quarter with those guys, you got a couple touchdown lead. I think they'll give up. So we got to start strong.
Now, after that, we come home to face the Colts, and then we go to 3 straight road games against opponents that are beatable, right?
Right, exactly.
Jacksonville, Tennessee, Chicago Bears should all be good games on the road, but you could come out of there 2-1, 3-0
easily.
Not
Jacksonville's terrible. I mean, they got the win yesterday. They're terrible. Quarterback's completely overrated. Tennessee is one of the worst teams in the league. Man, we could beat the Rams and take 2 out of those 3, even play the Bears tough. I think we'd be sitting real good. We'd definitely be, man, you'd be at 8 wins. That's wild card right there.
So, yeah. And what I was going to get to, Jason, next is then they come back home for 3 more. Arizona, Atlanta, Chicago. Now, if you're talking wins, when you're at 5 already, you're talking maybe 8. Where do you see them coming into the end of the season with 3 games left? They go to Seattle, at home against Green Bay, then at Detroit. But after those 3 back-to-back home games, they might be already at 8-9 wins.
Exactly. I mean, again, Seattle's really struggling this year. Really struggling. Kind of shocking. Arizona is one of the worst 3 teams in the league. But man, that Lions game is gonna be rocking. I mean, that may be for the division, right? That may be the difference for a playoff home game or a playoff road game, and we might end up playing Detroit again in the playoffs.
Yes, and so the schedule to me seems favorable to the Vikings down the stretch. It doesn't mean the games will be easy. This is NFL. The games could still all be tough. You could see some surprises here and there, but they're favorably set up to go the distance and head into that Detroit game. Now, that game at Detroit is still a TBD. They'll flex that game for TV and a time
Absolutely.
To get to the end. And like I said, it's going to be huge. Now, if both teams have clinched and both teams can't move around in playoffs, there may be a lot of subs. It could end up being a dud, but I highly doubt that. That should still be a huge game. And we're already talking Vikings playoffs. And we did the season preview show, and the folks were talking in the media and the fans were saying it's probably not going to be a playoff year. It's probably not going to go anywhere. Nothing's going to happen. Now we're basically, I don't want to say assured, but we're basically
pretty close
back into the playoffs with the schedule that they have, barring anything. Now the Vikings picked up Cam Akers, running back, who they wanted in the offseason. Actually had him, I think, at one point signed, and then it didn't work out or something. So they've got him back. But I want your thoughts on that as far as this doesn't relate to Aaron Jones' injury. This was the fact they wanted him all along. Now they're just supplementing their running back stable, right?
Yeah, and he's a great short yardage guy. I mean, he's not a guy that's going to roll off 120. In a game, but we don't, Aaron Jones is a good mid-level back. He's injury prone. I mean, if you look at his stats, he hasn't had a full 16-game season in 4 or 5 years. So, I mean, good insurance policy. The Ty Chandler and, whoever we had, the second or third string guys, we need better than that, right? We need a 1 to 2 yard guy. Remember the Leroy Horde days when we had Robert Smith, and then Leroy Horde was just 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. That's what Cam Akers is. So that's pretty cool. I mean, gave up a 7th-round pick. Those are free agent signings anyway in the draft. So that's kind of exciting.
That will be good. So heading into the winter season and the holiday season, we should be in playoff mode and willing to go to that Detroit game into the playoffs, potentially go deep and maybe even get a home game or 2.
Yeah, that would be fun. The thing with the Detroit thing too is, the odds are, I mean, right now we're tied. Detroit has the tiebreaker because they beat us head to head. We get down to it. We maybe got the same record and we beat Detroit. And, I don't know what the tiebreakers are for 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, but man, that could be the biggest game at US Bank Stadium in years, definitely of the KOC era, right? That's going to be the biggest game there in probably 5, 6 years.
and it was to somewhat it's going to be unexpected because who would
Exactly.
have thought the last game of the season or this is going to be at Detroit? That's going
At
to be
Detroit.
a
Yep.
huge sellout there, and a very good game. And then you roll into January, the playoffs
Mhm.
begin, the wild card, the divisional. This is going to be very interesting. Who else do you see in the NFC of the good teams that are going to be coming down the pike? We know San Francisco, but they got beat. What are
Yep.
your thoughts on
Yep.
some of the other competition?
Well, San Francisco, obviously, they're very well coached, but their receiver Brandon Ayuk, I don't know how to pronounce his name.
Ayuk,
Yeah,
I
he's
think.
out. He's out for the season. So I think he tore his ACL. So he's out. So man, that's their number one receiver. Debo Samuel hasn't
Debo.
done squat this year. So I think we're a better team than the Niners. I mean, the Eagles are probably going to make the playoff. They got all kinds of drama going on with them. They all kinds of drama going on with their coaching. Now Barkley would probably run all over us, but I mean the Eagles I think can be beat. Like who else in the NFC that is truly where we can say they're better than us? I don't know. I mean
What's your
Detroit maybe.
thoughts on the Washington Commanders of all
Yeah,
things?
yeah. I was just gonna say, again, they got a rookie quarterback. My God, that guy's a stud. And you remember after the draft, a couple things came out a couple months ago where KOC and Kwesi were willing to give up multiple firsts. I remember you read that article to go up and get him, and the Redskins or the Commanders rebuffed the Vikings. That guy's the real deal. But playoffs are a different animal. I mean, not a lot of rookie quarterbacks can, how many rookie quarterbacks have ever taken teams to the Super Bowl? Not many, because when it gets down to playoff time, the defensive coordinators are planning all kinds of stuff that these rookie quarterbacks have never seen. So I think we can hang with anybody. That's why I just think, man, that last Detroit game, I would much rather face Detroit at home than going on the road. I mean, Detroit fans are rabid now that they've got some success. But can you imagine Detroit at US Bank
West Bank.
Stadium in January? Oh my God, would that be fun? Yeah.
Yes. Now, have you made it to many games this year, Jason?
I usually go to one game a year. I have not made it this year. Um, I want to get. I want to really make the games count. The last couple of times I've gone to games, with I have a 12-year-old boy. They didn't really mean a lot. It was like he went there for the experience, and
Yeah.
he's still at that age. When I talked to him yesterday, I'm like, Cole, we got to get to a game, and he goes, "What kind of food they got there?" Right? He's still at that age where he's talking about the
Yes.
food. But I'm like, dude, food, you get food anywhere, So I really want to take him to a game. I was really hoping to make these things count. God, you're talking, 160 ticket, 160 plus fees, $200 a seat for nosebleeds, right?
Yeah.
But we definitely plan on going. He's never been there for the tailgating experience yet, but my God, I keep thinking about maybe a Green Bay or a Detroit coming in here for a playoffs. And can you imagine the parking lots around US Bank Stadium
Yeah.
playing Green Bay or Detroit, even Washington? It'd be a blast. So
Now, how is the December 8th game? The Falcons come to town. Kirk Cousins. How big of an impact will that have? Do you think with the local fans?
well, that's the game I'm going to go to. I'm going to go to the 8th with my boy. I think,
Okay.
man, Brian Flores knows Cousins well. KOC knows Cousins well. I think they're going to scheme all kinds of stuff on him, bring the rush. I mean, he's having a great year. If you look at his stats, if the Falcons end up winning the division, he's going to get MVP votes. But I mean, especially right now, if you kind of watch him, they're no longer even doing rollouts with him because of his Achilles. He's just a statue. I mean, he's still got a gun. He's a statue right there. So it's going to be a fun game. If we can dial up some of the blitzes. They didn't work yesterday. Nothing worked yesterday as far as our blitz packages, but they can do some blitzes with Cousins, get him rattled a little bit. It's going to be a fun game.
Yeah, good stuff. It's a fun season. It's certainly fun to watch. As a Vikings fan, what are you hearing on the inside, so to say, as far as the momentum of the fans? As
Yeah.
coming into the season with very little optimism, and
Yeah.
now you're sitting in a good spot. Is it really Is the bandwagon picking up, or are folks still thinking, no, I don't buy it?
I don't know. I mean, you could really hear the fans yesterday, man. That was a loud crowd. I watched it on TV, but that looked like a blast. And I think yesterday, like the true football fans know, again, Detroit's probably the second best team in the NFL behind Kansas City.
Okay.
And we took them to 1 second left on the game, right? So I think if you're not on the bandwagon, now's the time. We peel off a couple more wins and we get to 7-8 wins. I mean, 8 wins, Dan, almost guarantees you a wild card with the playoff expansion. So we peel off 3 more wins, we're pretty much guaranteed a wild card. You get to 10-11 wins, you might be hosting a playoff game. So yeah, I think the momentum is definitely there. I mean, the Timberwolves haven't started yet. Twin season is over. Wild, are just kind of getting going. This is a Vikings town right now.
That's fun. It's fun to see.
Yeah.
What do you think for closing win-loss? Do you have a gut feeling right now? You're thinking 10 maybe?
Yeah, I mean, when you and I talked this fall, I had them at 8 to 9 wins, but man, they're already at 5. You've got 17 game season. So you got 11 games left to go. There's no reason they can't go 5-6 or 6-5, right? At least
probably. I'm guessing if I got the crystal ball out, Jason, you're going to come in at about 10.5, 10 to 11 wins.
10 to 11. Yep.
As of today, and we'll see obviously how it shakes out. We'll do another episode when the season ends.
Yeah,
see where you're at. This is a fun season.
It's fun, man.
It's fun to watch. It's a fun team to watch.
You know what's really going to be fun? Again, I don't want to jinx them, but man, you get into this season and maybe, we're still a long way from winning the Super Bowl. I mean, I just want to get into the playoffs and win a game, right? Have some fun. But man, we could devote a whole episode to what do you do with Sam Darnold? End of the year, he wins a playoff game for the first time in many, many years. He's a free agent. What do you do? Right? You could devote a whole episode to that. Do you just tell him, shake his hands and just go with JJ?
Well, the thing is who's going to win in that scenario? And it's going to be Sam Darnold. He's going to be making some big coin regardless of what happens. And that's the situation I like that he was put into by saying, I'm a free agent, 1 year, a 1-year deal. That's it. If I do well, it's going to be big bucks. If I don't, maybe I don't deserve to be here. Maybe I'm not that good of a quarterback. But now he's having this year with the team, with the offense, with the scheme. It's gonna be a big payday, I think, for Sam. He's setting the second guessers. He's making those guys now doubt themselves. And like you said, being in a system with the scheme, a coordinator, and the offensive coaching that he has now, and the assets at his disposal,
JJ,
completely different guy. He looks like a stud out there. It's fun. It's fun to watch. We'll see how they do the second half of the season. But I agree. Now you're talking double-digit wins, which was very far.
Unheard of that.
When the season started. In the offseason, there was no way. It was very pessimistic fan base and negative fan base. But it's good. Anything on closing thoughts, Jason? Anything else?
No, it's I've told you this earlier, and I've told my son. My son is 12. He's really just kind of getting into the NFL. Dan, there is nothing worse than terrible Vikings teams in a cold winter. Sundays are brutal, right? Like having this, I mean, we went to church, and I mean, I was on my TV. I was on my couch an hour before the game started, just ready to rock, beverage in hand and pumped. Man, doesn't that make good Vikings teams make winter much, much more pleasurable in the state, right?
Yes. Yeah. And the offset of having the low expectations and a big reward now, which is always fun. It's always the right way to go. You come into these seasons where they're going to win 13 games. The prediction is all high, and they come back doing nothing. They fall flat. That's even worse. So we're sitting really good, I think, now.
And I think this really saved KOC's career here because not KLC, Quezzy, sorry.
Okay.
There was a lot of, Florio talked a lot about it. They were always been high on KOC, but man, Quezzy, his first 2 drafts, Dan, were horrendous. Absolutely horrendous. But Was he in line for getting let go at the end of this year because the contract's up? I think he was. And now I think, he's really redeemed himself. McCarthy was a good trade. He did look strong in the preseason. Drafting our kicker, who's literally the best kicker in the league right now. He had a pretty decent draft. I think, knock on wood, he redeemed himself. He had his fingers on the ledge about ready to fall off the high rise. And I think he turned himself around. So, God, it's a fun season, man. Good weather, good fall, 80-degree days with good Vikings teams. Make your life so much more pleasurable if you're in Minnesota.
It is good here. I got the logo here. So Jason, the bikes, it should be fun. Fun to follow, fun to take it all in here. Go Vikes. And thanks again for coming on the show.
Thanks,
today.
Dan. Appreciate it. Talk to you soon, buddy.
Talk to you soon,
Thank
Jason.
You, sir. Bye.
Yeah, bye-bye.